Hi everyone, I'm Carolyn, this is Rosie. We co-chaired the governance working group and we want to update you on some of the all of the recommendations that the partners voted on in May. Here are the members from the working group. I'm not going to read everyone's names since we're running a little short on time, but I really enjoyed working with everyone. We put a lot of time and effort into it. We had some really feisty discussions, which is always fun. So just a quick review of the process. We began our work in 2018, early 2018 in January, and that charter and the idea for the working group came up at the partner meeting in Connect at 2017, and that was because a whole bunch of people did a whole bunch of work as an informal group around governance the previous year. So at the Connect meeting last year, we decided we should formalize the process and ask a working group to come up with a set of recommendations that partners would vote on to adopt. So the working group reviewed the work that had been done, and if you remember, we also had lively discussions at Connect last year about open source models. And we drafted a summary document. It was vetted by steering. We sent it out to you guys so you could see what had been done the previous year. We then split up and took the community desired attributes and came up with a shared document that was a draft governance proposal. And just to review what those desired attributes were, it was a community-defined roadmap or plan. It was stable communication, having a coordination role. It was formal contributions from partner institutions. There wanted to be a plan to address anxiety around change, because we're all scared of change. No, we don't work in technology. And we clearly articulate relationships between groups. So those were the attributes. We then sent the draft proposal to the community. We asked for feedback, and we also held a webinar on it back on March 1st. We got more feedback from steering. We took the feedback from the community. We had more discussions, and then we came out with the final recs. Those final recs were discussed again at length in the partner meeting at Stanford in the spring. And then we held the vote, and that vote was in April. And yay, 32 out of 35 ballots were cast and 100% were in favor. We only needed a 2/3 majority in order to vote to adopt the recommendations. So working group completed its work. Yay, that felt good. All the documents, thank you to our community manager, are on the wiki, and you guys can go read them with glee. Some of the members of the working group did continue on to help with steering elections, which was the first recommendation. So the first recommendation, and I know Julie did this, but I'm going to say it again, was that steering would become an elected body from partners. There would be 9 representatives from partners, not more than 1 rep per partner institution. That was discussed at great lengths. 3-year terms. You could serve up to 2 consecutive terms. You have to wait 3 years. One of the recommendations is we want some staff to work for Samvera, and those folks will have a non-voting seat on steering. So we wanted to recognize the good work of steering in the 10 years that they had been the steering board, and also recognize there's a ton of institutional memory there. So we took the approach of rolling 3 members off every year so that we can retain a lot of that institutional knowledge or organizational knowledge. We had the elections, and I'll just go straight into that. The election was held in June. Or June through July. 3 steering members did step down. That was Mark, Bess, and Tom. New steering members began August 1st, and again, you saw them up on the screen before. Julie Allenson from CoSector, John Weiss from the University of Michigan, and Rosalind Metz from Emory. Steering did elect a chair and a chair-elect, and our chair is Richard Green, and our chair-elect is John Dunn. So the second recommendation was that Samvera steering will hire centralized staff. So part of that is that you need money to hire staff, right? So steering will fundraise to hire the staff, and the funds will also come from the contribution model that, granted, we sort of kicked down the road. Once enough funds are raised to support hiring, The prioritization of the two positions that had been floating out there, the community manager and the technical coordinator, would be decided upon at that moment in time. We did not want to say which one would get hired first, because, things change. So here's the money update, because like I said, you can't hire staff without money. The funds raised this year was $91,000. Again, you saw this in Julie's presentation. We do not have enough funds to hire someone yet. Fundraising email went out in August. And then it was talked about in the partner meeting that the next step was to help get a working group together and charter a working group to think about ways to fundraise for the community and bring some new ideas to how we can gather our funds to hire staff. And Rosie's going to do the last four.
So one of the recommendations was that the Samvera partners would develop a contribution model. Part of the reason for this was for the hiring of centralized staff, as Carolyn said. I should mention that the working group did attempt to identify a contribution model, but we recognized that it could take an entire working group doing that alone, let alone all the things around governance writ large. So one of the things we recommended was that a new working group would take some of the work that we had done already and move that forward in developing a contribution model. We outlined some principles for that working group to consider, and that is equity, good standing, how to value, not devalue, how to value in-kind contributions, and then incentives as well. So the goal is to come up with a contribution model and ask for partners to approve that via a vote. So as has been mentioned already, there was a contribution model working group identified. Richard and Ryan have done some, why are you on the opposite sides of the room? Richard and Ryan have done some really great work leading that group and outlining a draft report, which we encourage you all to take a look at. There was a survey that Richard and Ryan had, the working group put out, and then I can't remember which one of you, Ryan, because Richard was on vacation, sent out, and we had 59% of the institutions participating, which for survey purposes is a really good feedback. So the one of the other recommendations was partners will establish a roadmap council. As Julie mentioned, this is something to kind of help coordinate the roadmap. Again, going back to the original principles we outlined for the working group, one of the things we heard from all of you was that we needed some way of coordinating roadmaps of the various code bases within the community. Ideally, this roadmap council would be facilitated by a technical coordinator, but in the absence of that, we wanted the roadmap council to move forward. One of the other things we heard too from the community that it's not always acknowledged when someone takes a step back from a role, specifically a product owner role or a technical lead role. So we want to make sure that that is acknowledged more, and in some respects the Roadmap Council allows for that because of its makeup. So an update, the Mark Bussey, with some help from me, helped to draft a Roadmap Council charter. And Richard did a lot of good legwork to identify some people. And then Mark kind of followed that up with some of the technical staff. So the shakeout ends up being that we have John Cameron from the product owner for Avalon, Steve as the product owner for Hyrax, Rob as the product owner for Haiku. So those solution bundle product owners being at a table together, which I know that they have been doing informally, but this helps to formalize that. Ben Armenter and Mark Bussey from the Core Components Maintenance Working Group. That may rotate depending on who's on that group, that working group at any moment. Jen Young is serving as the representative for the metadata interest group, and Nabila for the repository management interest group. And then we also wanted to make sure that service providers had some type of representation, so Julie is filling that role. So the members, this happened last week, the members reviewed the charter. They agreed on the general tenets. And so our next steps will be to have all of you review that and then vote on it. One of the things the working group really wanted to make sure is that as these changes happen throughout the time that they happen, is that partners continue to be able to reaffirm that they like the direction that we are going with for the new governance. So one of the recommendations was also updating the bylaws, and this would happen after the 3 new steering members came on. Richard helped to draft those bylaws, and the steering group reviewed them. We approved them internally, and you can take a look at that here. I think we have sent them out. I'm sorry, I'm out on email. And we reviewed them at the partner meeting on Monday, but we'll make them more widely available because, again, partners will be voting on those bylaws. The last recommendation we've done nothing on because it's not 2019, and that was to assess governance at the end of 2019, because again, we want to make sure that things are moving in the direction that folks want them to move in. And that is it. So we'll get out early, but we wanted to provide space for questions. Does that mean everybody's sick of hearing about this? Because then we have accomplished our job.
Well, can I just say it's so exciting? We have a newly elected steering body. I mean, we're making headway. So, yay. I just wanted to hear an applause.
Yeah.
Mark?
Oh, Mark has questions. Oh, good.
I actually have an observation and a call out. This is super exciting to me to have my name mentioned up there and not be up there. It feels really healthy to me that some of us got to step down from steering and get to work in other places in the community, which was one of my reasons for stepping down, because I really wanted to be more involved in the components maintenance working group and some other things. So I think this is really a big milestone for the community, that we're generating new folks who have new talents coming on to steering, which is awesome. We're formalizing a lot of our other process, so this is really, really cool and exciting to me, having worked on this for 5, 6, how many ever years now.
I think, are there any more? Or is everybody looking at the clock realizing they'll get an extra 10 minutes of break? Oh, Steve has a question.
As long as we get to sit down.
Steve has a joke comment. The comment was, let's all sit here in silence for 10 minutes, but I don't think anybody really wants to do that. All right.
Thank you.
Well, then I guess we're at break until 10:30? Wait, what? I don't even know what time it is. 9:30. 10:30. 10:30. I don't know where I am. No, we're early. Yeah.